All right. Welcome to We Are Something Else, episode 53. Something to rap about. Well, right now, CB is out this week. CB is in Kentucky at his cousin's wedding. So you got me and E Rich here. Superfly is somewhere. Hopefully he'll be here before we get to the thick of things. But we got a special guest tonight. Oh, by the way, something to rap about. Episode 53. If you didn't hear me say that before. We got a special guest tonight. Got here's Superfly right here dialing in. Let me add him to the stream. Boom, Superfly live. We going.
Yeah, what's good?
Hear me, Superfly?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right.
Live. All right, we live. We go. We just started. So there's Superfly, there's E Rich, and our special guest tonight is Eric Konohia, my father. He was on the show a couple weeks ago, kind of impromptu. Switch that around. Let me get that logo off of me. Kind of impromptu, but now since we're gonna start our Black business series, promoting Black businesses, no matter what it is, I'm gonna start off with my pops. He's got a couple of big things that he's doing and he's done. So when we get to that point, he'll have a lot to rap about. So let's start with let's go around. Superfly, what's good with you, bro?
Yo, man, just another day, another week. trying to keep everything, the house in order, and try to prepare for what's going to come up next for this next 6 months.
Thursday again, though. That was quick. It's like we was just here. But yeah,
Yes,
it's running together, and I feel you. These next 6 months is going to be a lot. And we got voting, which I'm not trusting anything.
Hopefully, we got voting.
I mean, well, one way or another, I'm not trusting in this mail-in system because it has conspiracy written all over it.
And if nothing else, it has doubt written all over it.
Doubt, yeah, there you go. That too. E Rich, what's good with you?
Nothing much, man. Feels like I'm having my Groundhog Days. They all starting to seem the same, different outcomes. But then I wake up the same morning, it just rolls all over again.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. That's what
man.
feels like. I mean, I don't. Are you working from home?
Yeah. I mean, I go in every so often because we still got security stuff that's going on at the office, but. Mainly just to check after the fact. So, that's a break in it, but, eventually it's going to go back to us not being there. So,
Right. There's still no real update on when we're going back. The owner had mentioned September, but I think that's just like a comfort zone just to let you know that, we're looking out that far ahead of time, so you're going to spend your summer at home. We're going to be in this for a while. And then, like Superfly said, these next 6 months ain't guaranteed to be going anywhere.
Are you rushing to get back into your job? Aren't you getting paid from home?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not looking.
This may be the new normal.
Yeah.
May be the new normal. If you're getting paid and you're still working, are you rushing to get back in the office? And when you get back in the office, then there's all kinds of new parameters as far as how close you consider the new normal. I mean, why rush it?
Right, yeah, exactly. And I mean, we're still a few months away, or maybe a year away from any type of cure. It looks like. I mean, and it'd be interesting to see next months.
Might be a year away.
And it's gonna be a while, and it'd be interesting to see what's gonna happen, like in the next month or so when we finally get sports reintroduced to this new norm.
maybe.
Are you down NBA? Well, and baseball?
It's only going to take one spike within the organization for them to shut it down. I mean, you got to look at it from the owner's perspective, as far as the money that they're already missing out with people not going to the games. I just had this conversation. You talk about the NBA having their TV rights to only certain organizations, but There's too many teams for them not to show. Then you're not about to watch like a tournament style, game on TV because they have other things that are going on. So as soon as the owner decides that somebody in his organization has it, or they don't want to get caught up in that moment, they're gonna pull out. Then what do? You know what I mean?
What about some of the primetime players that are saying they're not going to get involved in it? Mike Trout to say he ain't going back. What's the player's name that went to DeMatha that plays
Oladipo?
He said he's not going back. When you start seeing some of these players, they're taking their health over entertainment, because that's what it really is entertainment. Health over entertainment. And they sit down. I mean, what are you watching?
Right.
What are you watching? Game. Right. I mean, I kind of fell into watching, flip the channel to wrestling. I mean, it's kind of odd watching wrestlers in there acting as if the crowd, there's a stadium full of people, and it's like, it really is acting.
Oh yeah,
it really is acting. What about some of these athletes that are driven by the crowd noise? I mean, what are you gonna do? Pipe in fake noise?
That's what who said? NBA said they were gonna do that. One of them said they were gonna put maybe that was baseball. One of them said they were gonna play like a automated like crowd noise.
It's got to be baseball. The NBA, they don't be loud like that. That's just during certain breaks. But
the only sport that's actually benefiting from this is golf, because they want you quiet anyway.
Right. So while we're on the subject of sports, we missed out on this last week, but it's kind of taking big headline now is the Redskins Daniel Snyder's finally getting his hand forced to change the name of the team. And we're talking about sponsors pulling out. I mean, Nike pulled out, Walmart pulled out today, right? So you're talking about the first thing you see when you walk in most Walmarts is what, the food court, whatever they have in there, and then like the men's section, and you always see Redskins paraphernalia right there. And it's got like Nike and websites. Owners are talking about selling their shares. What else is left for him to do? Does he come out and make a statement? Does anybody know?
Yeah, I don't know.
I know that they are committed to changing the names, but keeping the colors. I do know that. And
I did hear the colors.
I didn't know it just came around today that one of the options is the Red Wolves. I say, is there such thing as a Red Wolf? Or they just making up names? Why don't you call them the Black Whites then? Is there such thing as that? I mean,
right.
You're just coming up with names for the sake of names. Back in the 60s and 70s, this name was never an issue. So we get to these peaks and valleys when issues become, when things become issues, and all of a sudden we need to sweep the floor clean of all this other stuff. It's amazing, because I was telling my wife today, I said my high school mascot was the Potomac Braves, right? Potomac Braves, right around 2000s, when this whole thing started coming up about these names, they changed it to the Wolverines, where the Alumni Association came back and said there's nothing derogatory about a Brave. So they brought it back. So now you have this division between whether you were a Brave or whether you were a Wolverine. So I don't know. I get it. I mean, I get it. I get it from the standpoint of the sensitivities of it. I do get it. But, who's really driving this?
Right. My next question was going to be, are all Native American mascot names offensive to, do you find those offensive? Like the Golden State Warriors, is there anything, do you find anything offensive about the Warriors?
Well, here's the other thing. Like the Seminoles, they sat down with the Seminole Indians down there, and they didn't have a problem with it. That's why they kept it, and they kind of embrace it down there. The Atlanta Braves. What are they? Who's the one that's the Atlanta? You mean to the point, right? You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I think that you have to pick and choose your battles. I understand the sensitivities, the sensitivities of it, but when you talk about the Universal Hawaii Warriors, the Hawaiians don't get mad over that, because there was a contingent of that class that were warriors. You know what I mean? But we wouldn't get upset about that.
Right. I think the fact that we know for sure that the term redskin is almost equivalent to the word nigger.
No, it's not. No, it's
Matt?
not. One was derogatory. The other one was identifier. One
Okay.
was one, and so that's the argument we have to make sure that we're not perpetuating is one was to identify a person by the red skin. The other one is a derogatory term. You know what I mean? Derogatory term, and it's no different than white people thinking that when Hawaiians say haole, it means derogatory. It is not a derogatory term. It's not a derogatory term, but we let the conversation be driven by people outside of who have a vested interest in this. So the conversation can be skewed either way. Can be skewed either way.
Mhm.
That's why I start off by saying who's really driving this. I still want to know what a red wolf is. What's a red wolf?
That goes back to remember when it used to be they used to be called the Bullets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The basketball team.
Yep.
And they took this, so much violence in DC that we got to get away from that being the Bullets. Like, what was that really going to change the violence because you changed the name of a organization's name?
But they came here as the Bullets. They were from Baltimore first.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. News centering around Kanye West wanting to run for president. Are we
Next.
Are we taking this serious?
No.
I mean,
No.
on his end. It's on his end.
No. He missed the deadline to run independent, and as well as that is he ain't been right since his mama passed. And just to be honest, man, it's if you want to get to the nitty of it, that's probably most likely going to take votes away from Biden's side just because of the younger generation that's going to ride with him. And the simple fact that people saw him sitting next to Trump, it's messy, and to be honest with you, we ain't got time for that.
Maybe he's doing it in spite of that too, so they can drive both ways. But you're right, he missed the deadline. It's just another side again. That's all we would wind up being sideshows to a whole lot of stuff, man. And it's just taken away from the because this is a serious election, man. The president has already started campaign. What do you call it?
Rhetoric.
But he's spoiling the vote right now by saying that mail-in ballots are not legitimate. I'm telling you, they're gonna have to literally walk him out of there. He's not gonna walk out of there come November or after the inauguration. He's not gonna walk out of there. They're gonna have to literally carry him out of there.
I was gonna say he started a couple of weeks ago, even right before that, firing up his support system. Do you think his support system has grown any, or is it the same batch of people that he targeted last time to win the election?
He lost a lot of the middle class white women already. He lost a lot of them already. They've taken several polls, and they've shown that a lot of the middle class white women have already jumped off his ship. A lot of his base, he was smart the last time. What he did was he woke up the underbelly of this country, and they identified with making America great again. And whatever that meant to them, they were willing to roll the dice on it. And he gave them exactly what they wanted. The ability to say anything you want out your mouth, put people, at least from a rhetorical standpoint, put people back in their place where they belong. You don't belong here. And it kind of sparked everything. But his recent, I guess, with the last 3 months, his recent behavior is just like, man, this dude is off the chain. He is literally off the chain. One minute we're doing more tests than anybody else. Next minute he wants them to slow down. They get to the press conference and then they say that he was just joking. Later on that evening he gets up and says, "No, I was serious." Then he gets back on and says, "We're doing more tests than anybody else. If we did half the tests, we'd have half the number of positive COVID." I mean, he's doing all kinds of Chinese arithmetic in his head. You see him back there sliding the abacus back and forth with the little wooden beads.
Right.
He ain't even doing that, man. He ain't even doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not even wearing masks anymore. Like they never did for the most part when they first started talking about wearing masks. But Pence is on without a mask. This guy's not wearing a mask. It's like the COVID thing is still there. but it's not the top story anymore. Now it's like that scrolling headline at the bottom of the screen. Now you have to read up on it to kind of get what you really need about it. It's not.
But
It's not.
if you're watching network news during the daytime, that's all they're reporting on. COVID kind of went away after the George Floyd situation. That kind of went away. People just, threw caution to the wind, protesting. And I get that. But if you remember, during that time, I was in North Carolina and South Carolina. I told you I was the only one down there wearing a mask. And when I walked into the hotel, people looked at me like I was disrespecting them by having a mask on. And guess where all the spikes are now? In the South.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Before we move any further, I don't know if you guys saw the headline today. I haven't had any updates about an EU out there in Cali about Naya Rivera. Have they come back in with any updates, or is it still kind of a search and rescue kind of thing, or search and recover?
That's what it is. They're trying to recover it. I mean, they know she out there. They just got to find her. I mean, I think it's like 4 or 5 miles stretch, and it's deep. You know what I mean? So it's not It's not
Because the
easy
boat
for
had
them
been kind of just floating away on its own, right?
Yeah, like I said, it wasn't until somebody that was in another rental saw the kid. So you don't know how long from that process that she been down there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's sad, but that's, man. They just reported on that like boating accidents are up like 400% like over the year, because that's where everybody's on now, because they can't do nothing on land, so they go out on boats. Drinking in the whole nine, and it don't take much, man. That's the wrong place to mess up. You got to be on your A game every minute when you out on the water.
Right.
You ain't lying.
And the thing is, if you go out on the boat, I'm assuming it was just them two, and the kid had on a life vest. They said they found another life vest on the boat, so obviously that was probably hers. I would find it weird that you take a boat out and not know how to swim. If it's just gonna be you two, there's nobody else around that could help. And so then,
I mean, it depends on the water that you want to. Like, current can drag you under even if you can't swim. So you just gotta be extra vigilant out there.
It don't matter, man. She could have caught a cramp. She could have caught something. I mean, what is your 4-year-old gonna do? You know what I mean? You can't help her up. You know what I'm saying? So if she's struggling, it's a wrap. Like you going straight to the bottom. You're not floating. That's it.
Right. Well, thoughts and prayers out to her. We'll see what happens. So let's get into this Black business series that we want to start and want to focus on, because there's a lot of Black businesses out there, Black business owners that you might not know about. Not everybody's in front of the camera, bouncing the basketball, catching the football, got their name plastered on some building. Everybody's not a Magic Johnson. You don't know every business, Magic Johnson owns, but a lot of them he's vocal about. But I want to start here at home. Our guest tonight is no stranger to the show, Mr. Eric Konohia, who's got a couple of businesses. He's very successful at, it seems to be. So I guess my first question is, during this pandemic, where a lot of business owners are struggling to stay afloat, how have you found it? How have you found it to be during this pandemic to keep your business thriving?
So first of all, thank y'all for having me on the show. So first of all, my main company, when I started the company in 2001, I made sure that company was recession proof and boogeyman dependent. And so even though I'm in the security industry, I made sure that the niche market that I'm in would never dry up. And so whenever the boogeyman comes around, I get busier. And so when this pandemic hit, we went to national quarantine, I got busier to the point that people in the industry depended on me to get them work. And so that was by design, that when I went into the security industry, I didn't want to do uniform security. I specialized in executive protection. The company I used to work for got away from full-time employees and only went to contract employees. But around 2000, I went and got my license to operate in the state, did all the administrative work to be recognized by the state as well as by the federal government to be a legitimate business, not just walk around with business cards printed from Microsoft Word. In fact, I didn't have business cards. And so when he went away full-time employees and decided he was going to do just contract employees. Well, guess who was sitting there with the license ready to operate? It was me. So I absorbed the entire detail right then, and I haven't been looking back since. And so when this pandemic hit, I can pretty much, the industry I'm in has ebbs and flows based off of season. So right around Christmas time up until after the 1st of December, it gets slow because corporate executives go on vacation. They just don't do anything, and they close out the fourth quarter. But after January 1st all the way to the end of the year, I'm extremely busy. If you take that and you throw in a sprinkle of boogeyman in the middle of that, or you sprinkle something that has anything to do with the economy going dry, some type of pandemic or something like that, I even get busier. So right now, we're servicing, my company services Fortune 100. And if you're familiar with the Fortune 100, top 100 institutions, corporations in the Fortune 100, in the top 20 of the Fortune 100, I have the 13 out of the top 20 are clients of mine. So we're constantly busy. And so when this pandemic hit, the financial institution kept going. And so we got busier. We got busier. And I told these guys in the industry, a lot of these guys want to do entertainment. They want to do the hip hop guys. Those guys sitting at home now. Ain't nobody recording. Nobody's touring. So all these guys are sitting at home now in boxer underwear playing PlayStation while we're out there working. So that was one of the things. That's one of the things that we did during the pandemic. We've been extremely busy.
Nice. For anyone who wants to get into your field, what are your requirements as far as people who want to explore your side of the field, maybe not just the celebrity side?
So in a niche market that I'm in, which is the executive protection, which is the equivalent to the private sector version of the Secret Service. It used to be years ago, you had to have the law enforcement or military background. But I've seen in my experience that those two institutions come with preset training. So military is close with and destroy the enemy. Police is live to fight another day. I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6, right? And so in my side of the industry, it's a sissy game. It goes against everything you learn as a boy. Defend yourself. Don't let nobody bully. When the fecal matter hits the rotary oscillator, we cut and run. Because if we're standing there fighting, guess who else is there? The person they're trying to get, right? So we cut and run. You know how many times the Secret Service has ever fired their weapon to protect the president? 0, because they cut and run. They cut and run. If you look at the Reagan shooting, this is a prime example. Reagan shooting, when John Hinckley knew that the police officer working that detail that day was new. If Delahanty was detailed that day, he was canine guy. The guy who normally was there was off. Hinckley was in the press corps line, which was normally set back further away. He convinced Delahanty to let them move the press corps line closer. So when Reagan came out, he would be closer. Delahanty let them move the press line closer. When they came out, shots fired. Delahanty actually ducked, because when shots get fired, police officers are trained to either fire in cover or concealment or cover. He actually ducked into one of the bullets and got shot in the head. McCarthy, the Secret Service guy, did exactly what he was trained to do. He got big and he got hit. The first person to put their hands on Hinckley was a guy named Alfred Antonucci, retired lieutenant colonel for the military. So he closed with and destroyed the enemy. So all 3 institutions were there at the same time, police officers and military. And from our perspective, I can't untrain that because it's innate in their fabric. Although some of the things that they come with, like esprit de corps, being able to work in a chain of command, those things it's hard to train somebody to do, but they come with that already. So the limitations in terms of coming into our industry has changed, at least from my perspective. If the person has a clean record, and wants to come in, first thing you have to do is go through the training, a certified training course.
Okay. Speaking on the training, we've seen how the lack of police training there may be, or um, from what's going on now in the news, people are questioning the kind of training that they are getting. What does it take? What kind of training do you provide your guys?
So our training is specific to executive protection. The basic course runs anywhere between 7 to 10 days, depending on how extensive you're going to get into some of the core subjects of the course. Like advanced work, protective advanced work, should take about a day and a half to 2 days. So that's 2 days of your coursework. Then you have other things like motorcade operations, which would take a day. Not only a day with that, but then your day practical stuff on outside, getting in and out of the cars. Then you have stuff like special event stuff. How do you work special events? Not just like parties, but special events like shareholders meetings, or going to somewhere where your client's going to have to give a speech, those things like that. So it takes between 7 to 10 days, depending on how many practicals you're running through the day. But by the end of the course, they have all the core elements to be able to work the detail, but you really don't get the training until you get on the detail.
Right. We see a lot of. So okay, here's a question. A lot of people want to know. They use the term bodyguard very loosely. Oh, that's so and so's bodyguard. That's this person's bodyguard. Break down the difference between a bodyguard and an executive protection agent
Specialist. Okay, so in Europe, the term bodyguard is the same thing as executive protection specialist in the United States. They do the same thing that I do. In the United States, bodyguard means a total different thing. And so several years ago, I did a survey monkey survey where I polled 500 people, right? 500 people. And the parameters to the poll was you had to be over 30 years old, had to make over $65,000 a year, $65,000, college graduate, and own a home. Anybody want to take a stab at why I chose my group, my testing group that with those parameters? Anybody want to take a stab at it?
It's homeowners
stuff to lose.
Say again, Simplify.
I said they have stuff to lose.
No, those are the ones that in my industry are the ones I've dealt with as being decision makers. They were all the decision makers, whether they're going to use my service now, over 30 years old, made at least $65,000 a year, owned a home, and college graduate. Remember, I only deal with corporate people, right? And I polled them with 3 questions. When you hear the term bodyguard, when you hear the term bodyguard, do you think trained, untrained, or unprofessional? When you hear the term Secret Service, do you think trained, untrained, or professional? When you hear the word executive protection specialist, trained, untrained, or professional? Only 5 people voted bodyguard. Everybody else, the vote was split between trained, untrained, and professional for Secret Service and executive protection specialists. So I tell the guys who come to these seminars that I go to, if you refer yourself as a bodyguard, people think that you're untrained, unprofessional, and untrained and unprofessional. So you can use that term, but the decision makers look at you like this. So that's the bigger call. The other thing is, most of these guys that you see that are bodyguards, they normally are picked up by these guys in the industry from the gym. Somebody's buddy is a friend of somebody's buddy looking for a job, some big dude that they want to put around, and the only thing he's doing is following the guy around. He has no training whatsoever to do advanced work, motorcade stuff, and basically he's just a guy just hanging around, slug just hanging around.
Right. Well, you can see that when you look at Floyd's bodyguards.
Right. I was about to say Mayweather all day long.
He had 2 guys called had a company called the Four Horsemen that were here from DC. One was a former MPD guy. They had no executive protection training. They were just big dudes, right? Big dudes. A guy who's in the industry that is trained, got in 2 of one of these guys that knocked one of them dudes out.
Wow. You spoke on the term advance. What typically goes into an advance?
Okay, so the bigger part, I'll break it down into 4 different things. And so to make it simple, because the Secret Service uses a 20-point advance measurement where the 20 things have to be measured. So how do I get in? Where do I put my stuff? Where do I go if something goes wrong? And how do I get out? So if you can remember those 4 things, and each one of those points has like 5 different things that go along with. So how do I get in? So let's say I'm going to a venue, the DC Convention Center, right? How do I get in? Not only entails where we're going to debust from the vehicles and get them out, but it also means how do I get in from the other place that we're leaving? So it talks about the departure from the other location, the routes, primary, secondary, and tertiary routes, route security and route security and route planning. How do I get in when I get to this building? What is our primary entrance, secondary, or tertiary entrance? Right? How do I get in? Right? Where do I go if something goes wrong? If the shit hits the fan, where am I taking this guy? Are we going to stay? Are we going to hold somewhere and wait until it clears and find our way back out? Are we going to get back to the car? Or are we just going to stay? That's where. No, I'm sorry. Where do I put my stuff? So when we get in, where are we going? Right? Where are we going? Is he going into this room first, and he's going to hold in the green room for 15 minutes before he goes on stage? And in the process of that, where do I go if something goes wrong? If something goes wrong right now, where are we going? So the advanced guy has to be able to translate all those answers once we get on the scene. And how do I get out? So after everything is already all done, said and done, how are we getting out? We're going out the same way we came in. We use the second or tertiary exit plan to leave out of the play. And I'm speeding through this, but you're talking about 2 days worth of core work that goes into all this stuff.
And this is 2 days before the client even gets there.
No, I'm talking about 2 days in the class.
Oh, in the class. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So your advanced work depends on when it's going to happen. So one of my clients, we are there with him for 4 days, but each day has about 18 movements. So each one of those movements has to entail in advance. So what I do is I flip flop the guy. So Khalil, you may have the first location on Monday. Superfly has location number 2. Khalil, you have location number 3. Superfly has 4, and we piggyback like that. So we may get in 3 days before the clients get in there, but you guys are doing the advance for the first 3 days. As we're going through those 3 days, I'm peeling guys off of the detail to start performing advances on the 4th day. So as we're working in the other days along that are upcoming.
Gotcha. How saturated is the market with executive protection?
So from the niche market that I do, it's not saturated at all. I would venture to say that I'm the only company that gets up every day, turns the lights on, and we do this full time. There are a lot of guys out there that have businesses because they have the requisite licenses and stuff like that they can operate, but they don't have a steady client base that are constantly doing it. Every day we get up, we turn the lights on, we're running a company.
And how far does that expand?
Domestically, I cover just about, well, not just about, some states and some areas in the country are slow. They don't have a lot of executives there, like Wyoming, something we may do once every 2 years. But there are hot pockets within the country. The West Coast, the South, including Texas, Mexico, Florida, and then along the eastern seaboard, we're constantly busy. In the upper Northeast, like Washington State. And then abroad, we're constantly busy abroad as well.
All right. Hold on, we got a question I'm gonna put up. That's from Nate. How often do clients change up movements on the fly? How do you accommodate? Good question, Nate.
So the corporate clients rarely change it on the fly because everything is accommodated for the fact that they need to be a certain place, a certain time all the time. They may change lunch hours, but I have certain clients that because by nature of the type of business they do, everything is by the seat of the pants. So 1 minute you may be supposed to be somewhere, you may throw 3 or 4 movements before we get to that location. But if you got a trained core group of guys, you know how to peel guys off. So go advance X, Y, Z before we get there. Or what we may do is call a hasty advance. We arrive at the scene, a guy's doing an advance while we're on the site. What I do, I may push one or two guys ahead to receive us. They get as much as they can about what he needs to do. As soon as we get there, we take him to wherever he needs to go. And then all of a sudden we start doing what's called a hasty advance. Those off, what we call off the record movements like that actually work on our benefit because they're not on the schedule. So nobody knows it but us. And so it's not preset ahead of time. So it's basically us going somewhere without being forecasting our movements. And they actually work on our behalf. But it happens often with specific clients.
That was a good question.
That was a good question.
Threat assessment. How do you monitor your threat assessment, or what's normally your threats?
Okay, so words mean everything. We don't do a threat assessment. We do risk, vulnerability, and threat assessments. So we measure the risk, and then we measure the threat, and we marry those two together. It comes up with a scale. So most people, mistakenly think that because you have $1 billion in the bank, that there's a threat. No. Unfortunately, we live in a society that by having a lot of money, there's a risk to having a lot of money. It shouldn't be. There's no threat. A threat is an active intelligence that says that somebody's going to do X, Y, Z to you, right? So risk, we measure risk in certain ways. You have intentional harm, unintentional harm, and embarrassment, right? So anything, and for the most part, we covered it with two of them. We're constantly covering unintentional harm and embarrassment. My drivers could pull the car too close to the curb, that when the principal gets out, it twists his ankle on the curb. That's unintentional harm, but it also causes embarrassment because if he falls down, they get a picture of him on the ground. It's an embarrassing situation. That's all on us. So little teeny nuances like that, we have to be constantly, attentive to. From a threat standpoint, we're constantly. I do a quarterly assessment on all of my clients quarterly, but from a daily standpoint, we're constantly monitoring, stuff that's on the internet about people. Like, for instance, there's a specific brands like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola was on the top 3 for Al-Qaeda, hit list for Al-Qaeda right after the 9/11 war, because they wanted to abolish anything that was related to westernized living, that the infidels were making a lot of money off of their people. So Coca-Cola was high. A couple of shoe companies were way up there too. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. They were up there too. So you have to keep monitoring stuff like that. Now, if one of my principals or the organization they work for says something that is a little contrary to what's going on in modern times. So if you notice, through this whole George Floyd thing, most people either they kept quiet or they donated a whole lot of money. They either kept quiet or donated a whole lot, because all it takes is one person to say something, and all of a sudden it puts the entire organization at risk. So you could be head of marketing for XYZ company, right? And you make one statement, but because you're a decision maker, everybody above you is at risk now. They're at risk because of something you said. Because you represent the company. Right. Because you represent the company.
You just spoke on marketing. A lot of businesses flourish, obviously, with different marketing schemes and commercials, Instagram ads, social media ads, all that. What is there a marketing tool that you guys?
All of my business come from word of mouth.
Well, I know that, but
Yeah, and so I maintain a company Facebook page, but the only thing I put on there is stuff for people in the industry to be aware of. Just like when University of Minnesota came out with a study that showed that right now the virus is being spread by people from the ages of 18 to 40. So I coined them biological terrorists, right? But a lot of these guys in the industry don't think about that. When you're out there with your principals, you got to remember that these young kids are the ones that are spreading this virus around. So as you move around, you have to accommodate for the fact that if you're going to someplace where there's a highly saturated group of 18 to 44 years old who are not wearing masks, you may be putting your client in a high risk situation. You follow me? And so little teeny things like that, people that kind of like fly over people's heads, I'm constantly churning up the waters to make sure that people are aware of what's going on. And just by virtue of that, that's all the marketing I need. But my client base alone does all the marketing I need.
Okay.
I'm one of the guys, you know who it is, was doing a Instagram interview not too long ago, and I kind of popped on to see what was on. It was a couple hundred people in there. I kind of just popped on to see what he was saying, and the lady was asking him a question. He said, "Hold on. Can I say something?" There's a guy that just stepped into this room, and he mentioned my name. I've separated myself from the industry because what I've done is I've said everybody's operating here. I've separated myself from here, and so this whole conversation tonight is supposed to be talking about black-owned businesses. Was it last week? You remember when the fish market when they protested the owner of the fish market, and I went there and shot pictures, and there was a lot of black business owners up there who own restaurants, and I asked them, I said, who's going to fill the void? If you shut this guy down, who's going to fill the void? Because I already know who's bidding the contract to buy this place. None of y'all names are on it. We have to be able. What we have to do as a community is we have to operate in excellence. Because I can put Danny Boy's fish sub shop on the corner, run by Asians who do a great job of what they're doing, and put a black-owned restaurant next to it. We're gonna go to that Asian dude. You know why? Because he puts one more piece of fish on that bread. Let alone that the brother's putting the better cut of fish on his sandwich. We don't care about that because we think he's getting over on us. You follow what I'm saying? So we have to operate in excellence to the point where when people think about fried fish sandwich, they only think about me. They only think about you. You follow me? So if I ask you right now, who's the best place to get fish sandwich on Friday? What are you going to tell me?
Hardy's Barbecue. I was getting ready to say that. Shout out to Hardy's Barbecue.
Hardy's Barbecue.
Boom.
Hardy's
Boom.
Barbecue. See, he separated himself from everybody else. You follow what I'm saying? He separated himself from everybody else. And you don't care that he's a brother. You know that he's going to give you excellent service. And so when we understand that a lot of people who say they're in business, what they're doing is doing a hobby, and they're really not in a business. If you're churning in money, the only money you're making is to keep the business running. You're spinning your wheels doing a hobby. You're doing a hobby. The first 3 years of any business, you're not going to make it. You can't make any money. You can't pull money from the company. But after that, if you are making money to pay yourself a salary, you're in business. But if your business is only churning money to keep the business moving, then you're doing that's a hobby. That's a hobby. It's got to be an income stream after 3 years. And then if your business is good enough and you start separating yourself, then you're the first person they talk about when they talk about you. When they talk about it in that industry. You can't have a conversation about executive protection in this industry without my name coming up in the conversation. And that was I did that on purpose. You're either sitting at the table or you're on the menu.
Speaking of menus, Superfly, you posted Hardy's Barbecue. And it's tomorrow. If you're in the fish sandwiches, Superfly, just go down there and grab your fit and get some fries too. Fish sandwich and fries. I'm gonna try to get them on the show because black business.
What's the other places in Fort Washington does the great hamburgers? You told Khalil that you Legacy. Legacy is another one.
Legacy bar.
Legacy is another one, but you got to get there early because that line all the way to Fort Washington Park.
Hold on, I got a question for you. So, I guess the question that I have for you, when you touched on the fact that if they got rid of that one business, who's going to step in line, to get ready to take over that spot? Like, where is that mentality of what Black Wall Street was, where it was building on the property that was around the area? Like somebody started, then somebody else bought, to where then that's, how you create that path of, then you have a single lane where you can go and almost get everything, kind of like the barbershop, you can get socks, draws, outfit, the whole time. How do we get to that point where we create that avenue or that street or whatever it is, to where we're starting to line up those businesses?
The first thing you got to do is we got to see with that Black Wall Street, they trusted each other and they relied on each other. Think about that. When you need a DJ Do you go call the dude down the street, or do you rely on calling Superfly? When Superfly thinks he's going to need security at his venue, even though I don't do that type of security, he may call me and say, "Do I know somebody?" You follow me? So this little small network right here, if I said, "Look, I need somebody to do a eulogy at one of my frat brothers' funeral," who am I going to call to find out if I can find him? I'm going to call E. Rich's father because he may know another brother can do it. You know what I mean? So we have to be dependent upon each other. This can't be separate islands. This has to be a nation with a mindset that everybody relies on each other. So just like what the Asians do, 4 families may move into a house, open up one restaurant, but then they perpetuate so that another person could go out and start another one. Then all of a sudden you have a chain. That whole Black Wall Street. I encourage everybody to watch the documentary on that. So if there was a time, because we're the first to say America was never great for Black people. Yes, it was. Every time, even Reconstruction, every time we got great, they knocked us down. And we may be at a point right now where we're on the precipice of doing great things, and we're in this situation where we are right now. But we can get back there, but we just have to trust each other and rely on each other. But we got to operate in excellence, man. For them to call them Black Wall Street, man, they were doing it.
Mm-hmm. You have to be intentional. You got to be intentional in building that network.
It can't be a hobby, man.
Spend your money those places.
Right. And that's what we were talking about, even with my family. I told them, I said, look, for years, I tried to play the politically correct thing in my industry because I represent a lot of Fortune 1 clients that with even what I tell the guys in the brand, that your personal social media brand cannot conflict with your professional one. You know what I mean? So if you profess yourself to be moral, ethical, and professional business-wise, you can't be having, dudes on your Facebook page slapping some naked girl's ass. You can't do that. Those two don't jive together. You know what I mean? And so when we do things together, we have to operate in excellence. So I need to know that when I'm taking the next 5 days off, that E. Rich is not going to be sitting behind a desk sleep. That if he does, Superfly is going to tell him, wake your ass up before Eric gets back. You know what I mean? We have those checks and balances. We're not there yet. We're not there yet because I'm worried about how much money E. Rich made last week. How come I didn't make that much money? Why are you getting more days than me? As opposed to, hey, I'm working. I'm eventually going to get them days too. You know what I mean? Right. But with the good thing about it is that my generation, which is I'm one of the old people now, right? And y'all generation, y'all like the fathers because the ones that's fighting this thing now are y'all's juniors. So they're gonna be looking to y'all for the wise counsel. You know what I mean? I'm sitting back now. Every time I say something to my kids, they think, man, this old man don't know what he's talking about. Oh yeah, I know what I told him. I taught you everything you know. I ain't teach you everything I know. You know what I mean? So they look at me like I'm crazy. Nah, man, you don't want to do that. You want to be smart about that. That's not being smart. You can't. This is not going to be won overnight. It's going to be a long battle, but you got to be smart along the way. My biggest fear is I told them the other day, the George Floyd thing is starting to die down. It's starting to die down. COVID is starting to pick back up again, and we're going to be another tagline. Another opportunity missed. No leader has emerged out of this thing. No direction in terms of what they want to do. Obviously, defund the police is the biggest thing, but you can't talk about defund the police when, from the time George Floyd was killed, maybe 3 weeks ago to now, well, how many Black men were killed by police officers since then? Maybe 3.
Yeah.
There were 5 Black children killed this past weekend. So if you want to have the argument, you got to argue both sides. You got to argue both sides. What are we going to do about ourselves before we can? They don't take us serious, man, because it was unfortunate what happened. We saw it happen, but then we walk around, and next thing you know, we had a weekend full of murders all over the country by people who look like them.
Yeah. Kind of transitioning. You mentioned George Floyd, and I know you and I have been talking that you started another company recently, based around this and your love for something else.
Yeah.
Won't you tell us about this one?
So I it's photography. So I started taking photography in high school back in 1977. Half of y'all weren't even, your parents were probably just graduating out of high school themselves. And I was in the 10th grade. I was in the 10th grade and I took photography. My father gave me my first camera, which was a Leica M2. I still have it in it. I was in love with photography, developed my own pictures, and I kind of got away from it. And a couple of events happened that brought me back to it. So I shoot every day. It wasn't for the purpose of selling pictures, but more so just something I love to do. Well, what has happened is a lot of my pictures, the people have asked to buy my pictures. I sold a picture of the Key Bridge that I did 2 years ago for $2,500. So a lot of my pictures, people, and I don't have a merchant services account on my website. I just post my pictures and say, if you're trying to get in touch, I only print one size, 17 by 20. So I print big, those only sizes I have. I took a picture in North Carolina. I think I showed Kaleo. I'm only going to print six, but they're 10,000 a piece. And I have one guy in California right now that wants a copy. So, wow. but so for me, that's still what I would consider a hobby as opposed to a business. And because I didn't go into it for a business, but it's starting to turn like that. But
that sounds like a business to me. 10 racks sound like a business to me.
but here's the thing: Milli Vanilli had one big song. Were they in the business of music?
Hey,
no.
Now if I sell all six of them,
here we go. Right.
But the thing about it, the picture of the Key Bridge, the lady asked me, she said, "Look, I really want that picture for my office. You know, how much are you willing to sell it for?" I said, "Well, I can tell you," because at that point I was like, "Man, what should I do?" So buddy of mine said, "Man, sell it for a grand." She said, "Well, I'll give you $2,500 if you decommission the picture." I said, "Well, shit, after I print this picture, I don't give a damn about it anyway."
Mm-hmm. That's a good feeling, though, ain't it?
Like, yeah. Oh yeah.
When you don't know what you could charge for it,
man.
You want to pay me for this? Okay.
I knew she wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew she wanted it.
So what's the name of the photography company you started?
It's 33rd Eye Photography. But if you go to econohiaphotography.com, you'll see my website is up there. And there's a lot of pictures that I don't post on Instagram that I only post on the website. So you get a good feel or good grasp of all the stuff that I'm doing. But like for the last month or so, I haven't taken any pictures of any people. I've only been taking pictures of what you call fine art photography, finding spots where the sun is barely coming. Like yesterday, I went to Watkins Park and shot the inside of a barn. But it went crazy on Instagram because I'm chasing the light down. So you never know what people what people will what they find as art to them.
Right. Got a question. What was one of those events that brought you back to photography?
So what happened is that one of my clients has a professional photographer that follows the principal around, and she rides in the car with me with my team. She used to be the director of photography for the White House. She's the first Black female to be the director of photography for the White House. Her name is Sharon Farmer. Look her up, Sharon Farmer. She has her own exhibit in the African American Museum, right? And so watching her take pictures kind of got the juices flowing. Well, my best friend, who's Kaleo's godfather, is a professional photographer for he shoots mostly tennis. Matter of fact, one of his pictures was in Times Square at the last year's US Open.
Can y'all see that picture? I posted real quick. Can y'all see that?
Yeah, that was a picture of the barn from yesterday. And then the picture, I posted the picture of the barn, I think, today. And so then my middle son, Kaleo's brother, when he went to high school, he said he wanted to take photography. Now, my wife, none of my family knew that I had taken photography in high school. And so he wanted a camera. We got him a camera. It's so funny. And it was a digital camera. Not only shot analog, which was film. So he's sitting there taking pictures of food at the dinner table every day, and I'm laughing because I remember having to do that, taking pictures of flowers and stuff. I'm laughing because I had to do all that stuff, right? So let me see that camera. So I picked it up, I looked at it. I said, "How you change the ASA on there?" He said, "What's ASA?" I said, "Well, how do you adjust Kelvin on that?" He said, "Who's Kelvin?" I called my buddy up. I said, "Man, when I talked to my son about ASA, he looked at me funny. He said, "Man, they call it ISO now." I said, "What about Kelvin?" He said, "No, it's called white balance." White balance. They didn't change the names. So then I said, "You know what? I'm gonna get back in it." So I bought a camera. I went out and bought a Nikon. It had 2 minutes. All I need is aperture, shutter speed, and light sensitivity, which is ISO. That's all I need. I don't need all that other stuff. And I started taking pictures. And then I realized that Leica had gone digital, and I went and bought me a Leica. And it's 3 things: aperture, shutter speed, and light sensitivity. You don't need nothing else. If you look at them black and white pictures on there, you'll understand it. That's all you need. You don't need all those other bells and whistles. And so Khalil, all 3 of my kids shoot. All 3 of them shoot. And so me and Khalil get together, I'm trying to get him to get used to, making sure he's paying attention. There's only the first 2 things you need to know when you're taking a picture. Is speed important or depth of field important? Those are the first 2 questions you ask yourself. Everything else adjusts off of those 2 things. If I'm photographing auto racing, then I know speed is important. So I know I need a higher shutter speed, which means now I need to boost my sensitivity up, because with a high shutter speed is flicking, the shutter is moving so fast that light's not getting in. So I need to boost my ISO to get light sensitivity in. And depending on what depth of field I want, I can either boost up my ISO or leave it the same and just shoot it at the same aperture the whole time.
Right. We spoke on a project last week.
Let me. So
yeah.
You guys do at the end of the show. You guys do what's it called?
For the soul.
For the soul. So I'm going to start this project called From the Soul. And what I want to do is meet people through either here or through my own networks of people who are Jordan enthusiasts, right? And so what I want to do is take a picture of them in their own natural state, whether it be in a barber shop, at a coffee shop, somewhere in a park somewhere, not just standing on a basketball court, with their favorite Jordans on, and then on the picture, the page that goes beside it, have a picture of them, why they chose Jordan, and why that shoe is their favorite shoe. So that is a project I'm gonna be working on over the next year or so. So anybody who's listening to your podcast that wants to be a part of that, get in touch with one of these 3 brothers right here. They'll get in touch with me. If you're local, we'll set up a sit down to do the meeting, because I want to do the shooting with guys sitting at a coffee table at a bar with their legs crossed with the shoes on in their natural state. The next page will be picture you and why that shoe, why you chose Jordan, and why that shoe is your favorite shoe. And then I'll self-publish it, but then I'll pitch it to some friends I got. Maybe I get picked up.
Right.
Now I'm in
business.
Yeah, now
that's business.
Yeah.
Okay. We also spoke about something else.
Then it'll be sitting at your local athlete's foot, and you go in and say, "I'm in that book."
So we I guess transitioning into the For the Soul. We also spoke. I don't know if we spoke on camera or off camera last week. Something else, another move that you had made. Speaking of shoes, recently you've got something going on, and do you have it with you to
It's around.
Oh,
Y'all talk amongst yourselves.
By the way, so we got a couple people watching. Shout out to everybody watching. We appreciate it. I missed a couple comments earlier because it was delayed, but as I see your comments come through, I'm putting them up. My man Sean Xavier, dope concept. Sean, man, you are a shoe enthusiast. I mean, you showed me a couple of nice pairs of kicks recently, so if you're down, I mean, and I know you, so come on through. And cigars too, so let's make this happen too.
Hey, you
So,
know what? We can do them in once this thing is all over with. We can do them while we tape it in the studio. But I just want to catch the shoes in a natural state. I don't want somebody to stand there with the shoes. I take a picture of the person standing there. I want the book to be alive. You know what I mean? To be alive. So whether you're sitting at a table, sitting on a booth, DJing, you know what I mean, with the shoes on, and taking a picture of the shoe in a natural state, wherever it may be, whether it be at the cigar lounge, coffee shop, not washing your car. You better not. I ain't taking a picture of nobody washing their car with no Jordans on.
but there we go, right there. So what are we looking at right here?
So 3 years ago, I was wearing a pair of Solomon shoes when I was working, and one of the decision makers told me, "How come you don't have on XYZ?" I said, "Because if I got to get nasty, I'm going to rip right through those. Do y'all have any tactical shoes?" "No, we don't." "Talk to so-and-so." "Hey, man, y'all got any tactical boots? Because I love these Merrells right here." No, we don't. But, I need to get you in touch with Tinker Hatfield's brother." Everybody know who Tinker is, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
His brother. So when I got home, I emailed Tinker's brother, that he contacted me with a guy who was running a division out of Nike, that they were trying to do stuff like they wanted to get into that space. And I told him, "So look, I can help you do what my idea of what the shoe would be, something low profile in the sense that it doesn't attract attention overseas." Everybody said he's either military or he's either working security, but it's rough enough that if you need to get shitty, that it's going to withstand the pressures. We went through the first rendition, and they were just trying out the fabric to make sure the fabric would hold up. And so what it did was send out the shoes to 10 people a certain size, and they would just run them ragged. And then once every week you give me an after action report, I would send it up to the brand, and then they would evaluate that. The second time was for something else. We evaluated something else. And so I sent a bunch of shoes off to the Marine Raider division, which is special operations. They did weekly after action report, to the point where they sent pictures of them doing a workup for a direct action mission that were going on wearing the shoes. And so this one right here is all black because we're testing out the bottoms. This is the last one before they go out. So if you look at the bottoms of these things, is it right there?
Can you show the rest of the shoe again?
You see in here, that's a rope well. So if you got to come out of a helicopter, the rope goes in the middle of it.
Give us a 360 of the shoe. So we want to.
Can we see it one more time?
A little closer. Okay. Definitely. Okay. It's got a Nike check mark on it.
See the back of the shoe? Yep. So that's the last copy of it, and then we should be done in a couple weeks.
Nice.
Right. So CB is gonna miss out on his pair when they get delivered to the house. Final version, because he's not here tonight. CB's in Kentucky, but
What part of
I don't know. Well, yeah, I don't think he's in that part.
Mm-hmm.
He's at a wedding. But nah, I think it was a good kickoff to our series of just black business, and just trying to maintain, finding your niche, marketing, maybe not marketing, purpose, and how to survive. Like I said, knowing your target.
The bigger thing is, if you're going into business, what do you stand for? That's the first thing. What do you stand for? And then what separates you from the next person that's doing it? If nothing separates you, then what are you in it for? Because the whole crab in the barrel mentality is what people are finding themselves in. So, right now everybody's selling like candles, right? They're selling candles. What makes you selling candles different than the female next door? But why do you want to sell the candles? Because the one who's making the candles is the one that's in business.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You're either seated at the table or you're on the menu. Or you're on the menu.
It needs to go on a t-shirt. That needs to go on a t-shirt. Seriously.
Yep, you're either seated at
Done.
you're either seated at the table or you're on the menu, man. And because it's a dog eat dog world, like what separates you from the next person? If you're not separated by the next person, then you're no different than the next person, and you'll find yourself just spinning your wheels. So that's the biggest. And remember that when you go into business when you go into certain business, you're going to have other people that are doing what you're doing, or something they do helps propel your business. So one of the phrases I coined in my industry is, your net worth is only as good as your network.
Absolutely.
Basically, your value is based around the people you hang around. If it's 9 broke Negroes in the room, you step in there, you're bound to be the 10th broke Negro in that room.
Right. My man Nate says, "Fire! I need the price on those." Can y'all see the comment? You see his comment on there?
I see that. Yeah, I see.
Okay.
What size is Nate?
MSRP TBD.
Yo, he's from around the way. He grew up on
He looks
Tangle.
familiar.
He's from Pinehurst. He's on what's the top of the street was good on Pinehurst. Like Tanglewood Drive. No, not Tanglewood.
Yeah.
That was the neighborhood. Timberline. No, not Timberline. Yeah, Tanglewood, something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say he looks familiar.
Yeah, he's from around the way.
What size is he wearing?
What size, Nate? If you still on, what size you wear? You better put your size in right now.
Because I got 10 pair in this box over here that need to be beta tested. Last beta test.
Lockwood. It was Lockwood Avenue. That's right.
Lockwood. I know.
Nate, what size are you? While Nate responds,
Yeah, pull out a ruler.
I don't know what the delay is for the comments from him typing 11.
He in the Pike 5x5. He in the Pike 5x5. Can Nate write? Because I need him writing every week.
Yeah, Nate says size 11.
I got you.
All right. Yo, Shan, that's Shan. So we got a new For the Soul logo. We're gonna put on some shirts soon. But that's Shannon right there, my man Shannon. He does all our work. So check him out on IG too. SLR Flow.
Yeah.
Black business. We need to have him on here too, because my man, he's a very talented artist. I mean, we worked at BJ's together, and I remember him doodling on his notepad when he was working at the gas station. So
does this work on Instagram?
Yeah, we on yeah, exactly. There you go. You see that one?
Yeah.
Love you too. Yeah, he's on Instagram, SL Art Flow. I'll post that too in the comments, but it's him right here. Dope artist. So while we on For the Soul, E, you got by the way, this is my family in Hawaii. We ain't been there in a while, so I miss every single one of y'all out there. So hopefully we get out there soon. Flights are cheap, but I know they're making us sit for 14 days when you go anywhere.
Well, it's not a bad place to be sitting in a room.
I wouldn't mind.
Right. I'll sit.
As long as they can deliver me some
I'll sit
I'll
for
be
14
fine.
days out there.
There's that's Shannon's handle right there. SLR Flow.
SLH Art Flow.
SLH Art Flow.
Got it.
Everyone. Thank you, bro. No problem, man. Hey, black business. Come home. We're gonna do a show live from there one day. It's all gonna get better when we can get back to normal. So while we're here For the Soul, E, you got anything that you want to bring up?
Yeah, classic.
Go ahead. I got mine right here. I'm digging.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I got the classic. I got to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an everyday wear. Like there's nothing that I won't put on. Where these ain't the first ones where I'm just like I can just go put these on and I'm done. I don't have to think about it.
Those are like the Air Force Ones. Everybody used to put those on that classic. You can't beat that classic.
One's a classic, no matter how you look at it.
Those were the Tux.
Yeah. Superfly, you got anything tonight? Superfly every now and then. Superfly will show something.
Yeah. He's being slick. He leaning back waiting.
Nah, I don't got nothing today.
Okay, so every now and then.
You ain't got no slides or nothing.
Huh? Oh, you know I got slides on. Well, yeah, I don't got no heat today.
Every now and then.
I stay with the slides though. You know what it is.
If you're in the house, hey. So we got the 11 lows.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
OG ones. These weren't the part of the release. I'm still look good. You can hear. Oh wait a minute. That's the real carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber.
You got to do that. You know, people want you to stab your carbon fiber.
I should have bought my low bridge down here then.
You got time to get those Travis lows you got upstairs, and no, yeah, look.
I may do a fundraiser to auction off those Travis Scotts and give it to the legal fund of Black Lives Matter. I'm deciding yet.
Those Travises they hard to, they highly sought after right now. But yeah, this is a good show. I appreciate. What's that? I appreciate each and every one of y'all.
No,
Sir.
Yeah, it's been a great show. CB should be back next week. We're working out on the details on who's going to be featured next week. A lot of people responded at the last minute about how they ready to jump on, and next week they want there to be their week, whatever. But one way or another, we're going to continue this. Superfly, if you know anybody you want to feature on Black Business, same thing with you. And if you want to pitch them, I know Rob is coming. I got to put some. Yeah, I know Rob is coming. But if you anybody else you want to throw our way, let's do it. That's all I got for now. So thank everybody for watching. That's it. That's we got something else. Any closing arguments?
Yes, we are. Operating excellence.
Go. I'm in this broadcast.